Happy to see you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Westchester Jewish Council Greening meeting. Today we're going to be speaking about native plants, and Evan will be introducing our speaker later. But right now we're going to start with a short introduction from everybody here on the call, and we're going to do it round robin style like we did last time. So I am Bonnie Hagan, and I am the co-chair along with Evan Kingsley of the of this committee, which Jackson is a member. And I am going to pass this off to Pam Goldstein, who is the extraordinary person who put this whole event together for us and all our other events. Thank you. Pam.
Definitely not true, but thank you everybody for being here. Pam Goldstein, Westchester Jewish Council, and we are really honored to have everybody, and I'm going to kick it over to Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan Kingsley, and I'm co-chairing this year with Bonnie Hagan. I'm also a member of PCS, Pleasantville Community Synagogue, and so representing along with our wonderful Rabbi Ben Newman, who's on with us today as well. I'll punt now to Jack and have him introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jack Zinn. I'm also a member of the Westchester Jewish Council board and a member of the committee. And I want to thank Bonnie and Evan for their amazing leadership of this. I'm also from Congregation Sons of Israel in Briarcliff, where we been trying to do some really great things. And I'm sure that Emily Sack, I'll pass it over to you, and you can introduce yourself and say a little bit more about that. You're on mute, Emily.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So yes, I'm also a member of CSI in Briarcliff, and we're hoping to do, CSI has already done some interesting stuff, mostly the farm, the chickens and the farm out in the back. We have a large plot of land, and that was proposed a few years ago. I don't take any credit for it, not a bit, but it's one of the best things we've done besides all the other good things. And we're hoping to do more. We're actually I'm on the green team, and we're scheduled to have some time before the Board of Trustees at the next meeting, which the date hasn't been determined. Anyway, we're hoping to do a whole bunch of more stuff. Bad sentence, sorry. Done.
Great. Emily, pass it along to somebody else. Pick somebody else on the screen.
I don't know who else there
Anybody.
is. Let's see, how do I see participants? How about Patty Butter?
Well, Pat, let's hold on that one because Patty's going to be introduced in just a minute. So
Beverly, how about you go?
That's fine. I'm happy to be the next. I'm Beverly Picker. I'm from Scarsdale Synagogue, Tremont Temple, and I'm part of the Greening Committee. And I'm very interested in today's talk on native plants, because I've also been given some leeway with our gardening on the outside, so that's great. And I'm going to pass it on to Judy Zinger. Yes, Zinger.
Hi, thank you, Beverly. I'm Judy Zinger from Synagogue Bet Am Shalom Synagogue in White Plains. I head up the green team, the Green Chevra. We call ourselves the Green Chevra, and we organize events around gardening and composting and trying to get away from using plastic and various things. And now I'll pass it on to Daryl Moss.
Thanks, Judy. I'm Daryl Moss. I'm from Congregation Kolami in White Plains. I'm on Bonnie's green team, and we've been doing stuff with native plants already, and I'm really looking forward to learning more. I'll pass this on to Elizabeth Lampert.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth from the board of the Westchester Jewish Council, but I'm also a member of Shaarei Tikva, And I'm extremely curious about today, both from a personal point of view, because I just bought a new house and I'm going to turn my whole front yard into a pollinator garden. And also, I'm sure that the plants at my synagogue are not native. So I want to see what we can do there.
Elizabeth, please pass the baton.
Sorry. I will pass to Kimberly Langus.
Hi, Kimberly Langus, Westchester Jewish Center, Merrimack. I head up the Green Committee, and we have our beds ready for the spring to put in a butterfly garden, which was a little bit of not an easy feat, I'll say that, to get that approved. But we are on our way. So I'm going to pass it to my friend from Westchester Jewish Center, Mark Corral.
Thanks, Kimberly. You said it all. Mark Corral, Westchester Jewish Center in Mamaroneck. Nothing to add, so I'll pass it on to Rabbi Ben Newman.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Ben Newman from Pleasantville Community Synagogue. I'm looking forward to the topic today. And thanks to our member, Evan Kingsley, for being part of this and getting us all excited about this. I'm not sure who hasn't gone. Marcy Modica, have you gone?
Hi, yes, I'm Marcy Modica. I'm on the executive board at Congregation Emmanuel of Westchester, and we have this little garden at this where people go to reflect and sit. So hopefully I can use this knowledge to change some of the plantings there. And sorry, I logged on a little late, so I'm not sure. Jillian, have you gone?
Jillian Friedlander.
She hasn't gone, but it looks like she's not ready. Maybe you can pick someone else.
Sure. And Daryl Moss.
Oh,
Jillian just unmuted.
Yeah,
So.
go ahead, Jillian.
Yeah, Jillian Friedlander. Sorry, I have to get off to get my camera, so I'm just staying this way. I'm part of Judy Zinger's very enthusiastic greeningrtfeb23 Shalom. And I'm looking forward to it also for the shul, but also for the gardening that I've started to do now that I've retired. So I'm really excited to be able to enrich it. And I'll pass on to Josie Ganick.
Hi, I'm Josie Ganick, also from Bet Shalom. I'm on Judy's email list, but I can't brag to be doing all the wonderful things she is. I'm mostly interested in this. I have been reclaiming areas in our yard that have been taken over by grass, and I'm trying to get us much more planted and primarily as best I can with native plants. So this is mostly for my personal needs. But thank you for having me. And did we have Roberta Ruse?
Roberta, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and just giving a quick introduction.
And wait, just let me get on here. Sorry, I got on late, but I think I understand what it is that you're asking, I hope. I'm from Woodlands Community Temple, and our youth group has just started a garden. And they are looking for input from our congregation on what they should be doing with it. It's part of their contribution to Woodlands environmental efforts, and so I'm here to learn whatever I can.
Great, thank you so much. I think Karen Sabbath, you may be next, and then we may be through the group.
Okay, hi everybody. Karen Sabbath from Sharei Tefillah in Bedford Corners, and we have a lot of grounds and are trying to reclaim them from invasives and be able to replace with fabulous native plants from Westchester Community Center's, Westchester Community College's Native Plant Center. So excited about today.
Thanks, Karen. It's really a pleasure for me to introduce Patricia Patty Butter. She's the garden manager and educator at the Native Plant Center at Westchester Community College, where she oversees the development and maintenance of the native plant gardens. And she helps to coordinate volunteers and events in addition to conducting tours and workshops, such as the one that we're holding today. She has a certificate in sustainable gardening from WCC, as well as a certificate in botany from the New York Botanical Garden, along with a bachelor's in fine arts from Pratt Institute. Patty leads 2 funded multi-year flora studies in Westchester at the Rockefeller State Park Preserve and at Ward Pound Ridge Reservation. Her volunteer work also includes identifying and documenting plant populations for the New York Natural Heritage Program, including 20 rare and threatened plant communities and 25 new species additions to the New York flora, to New York flora at the county level. As an active member of the New York Flora Association, she contributes as a writer to their publications. We are very fortunate to have Patty Butter's expertise today. So I turn it over to you, Patty.
Thank you, Evan. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to share my screen and let me know if you can't hear me, please. Okay. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yep. Good.
Great. Okay. I know we only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to move through these fairly quickly. And I just wanted to introduce the Native Plant Center and how we can help to support you all in terms of learning about native plants and selecting them and implementing native plant gardens in your landscape. My first slide, this was a very exciting observation we made last spring. This was a state critically endangered bumblebee that visited our demonstration gardens at Westchester Community College. So it's nice because it demonstrates that if you plant it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our offices and our gardens. We have about 2 acres of demonstration gardens at Westchester Community College. The campus is open. You can come to visit them and see what we have growing and how the plants will look in your own landscape. We were the first national affiliate of Lady Bird Johnson's Wildflower Center. And our mission is to educate, demonstrate, and conserve native plants. I'm going to click through these really quickly so that we can get to the really good stuff. We have a lot of programs that you can participate in, and in particular, our annual native plant sale, which is our largest fundraiser, will be April 29th, I believe, this year. It's always the last Saturday in April. And every year it grows and grows and grows. And last year we sold over 12,000 native plants. So that's definitely an event to make it to if you can. So the reason why we're talking about native plants is because they can do so much for our landscapes and for conservation. They're beautiful. They support biodiversity. And because they're perfectly adapted to our climate and our locale, they're the lowest maintenance plants you could use. Native plants are plants that were here in North America or the Northeast before colonization. So they are plants that have had an extraordinary amount of time to acclimatize to our climate and also to develop intricate relationships that every plant has with pollinators and insects and birds. All of these relationships are often specialized. There are certain pollinators where their larvae can only consume a particular kind of plant's leaves in order for them to grow and develop into butterflies or moths. There are a number of pollinators that emerge only to pollinate particular plants that grow in our environment. For example, there's a tiny little spring ephemeral flower that is one of the first ones to emerge in our woodlands, called spring beauty. Tiny little pink flower. There is a little mining bee, a native bee, that emerges only at that time to pollinate that flower, and then that's the end of its life cycle. It collects the pink pollen. We have there was researchers that took pictures of them at the Rockefeller State Park, and I think I may have included it in the resource list. It's called the Sharp Peatman Guides. You can see pictures of them online, and here they are. I forgot I had this slide. So there's of course thousands and thousands of specialized relationships like this, and this is why we want to conserve native plants, because they support the intricate web of life that exists here in the Northeast. Of course, we've all heard about monarchs. Monarchs are also milkweed specialists. The larvae of monarch butterflies only can grow on and eat milkweed plants. The reason why, and this is really interesting, milkweed sap is toxic. And by consuming the milkweed sap, it makes the caterpillars toxic to birds and other predators. So they've developed this very specialized relationship where they only utilize this plant. And I'm sure that since you're all on the greening committee, you're aware of the reasons why we need to be concerned about conservation. Our pollinators have declined. I think it's 75% in the last 30 years. And of course, that's of great concern to all of us for our very livelihood and existence, because 75% of our food crops are pollinated by insects. Equally concerning is the decline of birds. There's over 3 billion birds that have disappeared since 1970. This is twofold. It's partly because of loss of habitat, but it's also partly due to loss of food that birds need to feed their young. So that's the gloomy news. We'll skip past the sad news now, because we can work together to regenerate biodiversity in our own yards, and we can make our yards and our community centers for regeneration. So the first thing we'll do is we'll plant native plants, because they will support the insects that can support the birds. I highly recommend reading books by Doug Tallamy, and he also has talks available on YouTube. He's an entomologist from Delaware University, and he has done some really fascinating studies on the relationship between insects and native plants and birds locally, and for specific species. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how these relationships work and how we can help support them, his work is really helpful. And one of the things that his studies demonstrate is that for chickadees in particular, to raise a nest of little fledglings, they need to be located in a place where there's at least 70% native plants, because those plants are going to have all of the little larvae and caterpillars on them that the chickadees need to feed their young. Birds can only feed their young protein diets of insects. So that's that's really useful information to us as we're thinking about designing our gardens and our landscapes. This can be our goal. And of course, it'll be beautiful too. We have some of our native plants here. Cardinal flower has a beautiful relationship with hummingbirds because of the long tubes on the flower. They've developed a very special relationship. These are natural hummingbird feeders. And even our sedges support caterpillars. These two photos on the right were taken in my own garden. You can see that I was able to attract these beautiful insects with native plants. And keeping in mind how these will help support birds, you can have shrubs that produce berries and fruit that'll provide food for birds over the winter. This one on the left is our native winterberry, Ilex verticillata. And these are beautiful plants. These shrubs maintain red berries through the winter and provide food for birds. You can fight the food desert by planting fruit-bearing plants as well. And so it's important that we be educated consumers. I provided a resource guide for you all, and please feel free to reach out to me also if you have more questions. Many of these organizations have great plant lists that you can use, including Planting Westchester, which is our own county government's website. I'm going to skip over the botanical science part because I think we probably need more time to focus on plants. But I did want to show you this resource. There's a couple of websites. If you really want to check to see if a plant is native, you can go to these websites. This one is run by the New York Flora Association. It's specific to New York State. And you can see if a plant is actually native to Westchester County. I'm working in my botanical work on keeping that updated. The other one is BONAP. You can see the native distribution of plants in North America, and that can be very informative. There are great books that are available to help with selecting native plants and designing gardens. This one is by Kim Ironman, who is a board member at the Native Plant Center, and she also teaches classes there. She lives here in Westchester, so this is information that'll be super specific to us. And this is another great book. This just came out this year by Uli Lorimer, who is the head horticulturalist at the Native Plant Trust, which was the New England Wildflower Society. He trained here in New York. He was from Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. And he's going to be speaking at our conference March 13th. This is a great resource. This is a really beautiful book. The second thing you can do is you can try to reduce your lawn because our lawns are killing us. I'm sure you're aware of the need for us all to reduce our carbon footprint. Lawns, of course, require a lot of energy inputs to maintain them, and they're ecological deserts. They don't provide any benefit to the natural systems around us. So as some alternatives that we can think about, there are sedges and other ground cover plants that we can replace lawn areas with. The couple on the right in this slide, they got the laws changed in Maryland because their homeowners association was unhappy about their native garden, and they went all the way to the Maryland Supreme Court to get that law changed so that people can have native gardens. And then I wanted to show you some examples of how native plants can work in the landscape to be beautiful and have a nice functional design. It is possible to have nice, tidy pathways and low plantings that invite us to go out into our landscapes. You can add as much color as you want. The garden here on the left is at the Native Plant Center. This is our cottage garden, and you can come visit it in the summer, and you can see examples of how we've planted that to be more of a formal garden setting. There are a lot of great usages of native plants in public spaces that we can see as examples. This is the High Line in New York, one of the most visited sites in all of New York City, and it's a native plant garden. And it's been designed and planted beautifully, but you can go to see color in any season there. Another great place to visit to see examples of native plant gardens is the New York Botanical Gardens native plant garden. And they too have done an extraordinary job of planting in both formal and more naturalistic settings and for color throughout the season. Then I wanted to let you know that we have some really informative courses that are available in the spring. You can visit our website, and all of these courses are at Westchester Community College. They're typically only 1 or 2 days, so they're pretty easy to schedule. And there's a wide variety of approaches and information that's available. And then this is the, I mentioned that Uli Lorimer is speaking at our spring landscape conference. It's on March 13th. And we also have 4 other fantastic speakers. And we're hosting this conference together with a number of conservation organizations here in Westchester. So it's going to be a great coming together of the minds for conservation here in Westchester. So I hope that you all will be able to join us for that. And then if you have any questions, of course, we'll have a question and answer session now. And you can also please reach out to us and myself. I believe my email is on the resource list, so you can reach out.
Thanks so much, Patty. Maybe if you're able to take the share down, we can all see each other again. And I'm happy to moderate questions. And while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you. That was just a tremendously informative and wonderfully compact introduction to now we all have a sense of what distinguishes native plants from non-native plants. You gave us good reason to not only think about putting native plants in our gardens, but also transforming our landscapes from landscapes that are energy dependent and not contributive, like lawns, over to garden spaces and garden spaces that contribute and help our environment in important ways. So thanks for that inspiration. I'll start with Josie Ganick, who has a question. If others
Thank you.
wish to raise their, put them in the chat or raise your hand, I'll call on you as we go. Josie?
This was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Your presentation had slides with a lot of links to organizations and so on. Are those available for us to get? I tried to take a picture, but it went by too fast. How do we get them?
Yes, there is a PDF form of a resource list. Evan, were we able to email that around?
It's already posted on the Greening page. So you have access to it on the Greening page on the WJC website. And of course, this entire presentation will be available so it can be re-listened to, and you can sort of take screenshots and so on along the way. So thanks for asking that. Marcy, next, please.
I have two questions. Actually, Patty, you posted a staggering statistic about something like 2.9 billion birds have died, or there's been a decrease over what, 50 years or so. Aside from decreased plantings, what is that attributed to? Is that like avian flu and things like that?
No, it's primarily habitat loss.
Wow.
And yeah. That study was done by the Cornell ornithological, I forget their official name, but and Audubon also, I believe, participated in the study.
Okay.
Yeah, if you email me, I can send you the study if you want to see it.
Okay. My other question was, you posted really great resources in general, but do you have like a list or recommended local to Westchester, gardeners or garden houses that really have a knowledge of this, who really have an understanding of how to plant native plants and where they should go on your lawn?
You know who has a good list is Healthy Yards. They are compiling a list of landscape companies that can provide ecologically sensitive landscaping services.
That's great. Okay, Healthy Yards.
There's not a lot of them, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
I'm going to put the link in the in the chat. Judy Zinger, I see your hand up, and Beverly Picker after that. Judy.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. And what hit me early on was that when you're talking about how native plants are adapted to our climate in this part of North America, I'm thinking, oh, but the climate is changing. And I don't know how that has influenced your studies.
Well, it is something I'm studying, and we are seeing plants adjust their ranges based on the differences in weather. However, it takes them so long to adapt that obviously we're very concerned. There's some that may not be able to make the adjustments. But we are seeing for plants where we were on the southern edge of their natural range, we're seeing those plants decline and disappear from our landscape. We're seeing some plants expand their range from the south into our area. So yeah, there are changes that are going on.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Judy.
I've become aware of the Japanese knotweed infestation, and I know it's at Rockefeller, and it's all over. And the more you pull it out, the more the roots grow. It's really frightening. So I wonder what, and it cracks foundations and stuff like that. So it's not a good thing. I was wondering if there's some more insight into that.
Yes, there's a great local organization called Lower Hudson Prism, PRISM. They are a cooperative organization, partly run by the states, and they study invasive plants and how to mitigate them, and they can provide you with information on best practices
Thank you. Thank you.
I've put that in the chat as well. Let me turn to Beverly Picker next and then to Karen Sabbath.
Patty, we have a small garden circle at our temple, and I was wondering what would be a first step to get, we have a whole area that's been neglected, a lot of trees down, a lot of cleanup that's necessary. But I'm thinking that would be a great area to start doing some native plantings. So would there be a first step? Is it just cleaning up, getting rid of a lot of debris?
Yeah, and do take small steps. Don't
you need small steps.
Overwhelm yourself. Yes. I would say good first steps are to identify the most aggressive invasive plants and try to get a handle on them. The other thing that you can do is start working on structural planting shrubs and small trees, because they're going to fill up the space. It takes them a few years to get established, but they'll fill up the space and they'll be lower maintenance. Then you can plant around the bottoms and around the edges with your perennials, and some, if you use some grasses and sedges, they'll fill in, and eventually you'll be able to fill the space, so it's lower maintenance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Karen Sabbath next.
Hi. Thank you so much. That was really fantastic. I had two questions. One that I put in the chat is, which, I'm also with Bedford 2030, and we're not only focused on native plants for biodiversity, but also for carbon sequestration. And we're always grasping for more information. And I'm wondering if you all at the Native Plant Center have any information about native plants and carbon sequestration relative to non-natives that could be helpful. So that's my primary question, actually.
Well, I believe that this is just off the cuff, that what you really want to do is to establish biomass, which is going to be where the carbon is stored, is in the plants and in the plant roots. So to the extent that you can plant intensively and plant trees, plant at all layers, trees, shrubs, and the ground layer of herbaceous plants, then you'll be fully utilizing your space. And the plants will be sequestering the carbon in their structure and in the roots.
Patty, there's Karen, did you have a follow-up question?
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. There's a question from Kimberly Langus about the upcoming plant sale. I think we've all got an interest in that now, and we're wondering, do you need to be a member? Can anybody come? Do you need to order anything in advance? Is there advice that we can get that day when we come?
Oh, sure. Great question. You can order in advance. Our pre-sale is actually launching today. And you can find out about it by getting on our email list. There is a minimum order for the pre-sale because we don't have enough staff to fill the hundreds of orders that we would get if we didn't have a minimum. But don't worry, if you can't get it, order that much or get your pre-sale order in, the day of the sale, we have many more plants, and we have, I believe, over 100 species available sale day. So just come on sale day and you'll be able to select whatever you want. We have over 100 volunteers who work on the plant sale. It's a great opportunity actually to be there if you do volunteer and learn about the plants. But also those volunteers are generally fairly knowledgeable plants people, and they're there on sale day to help people make selections.
Thanks. And now in the chat too, you'll see a link to the Native Plant Center at WCC. Let me pose a question to you, which I'm sure lots of us think about, and that is the relationship of native plants to the deer population that decimates our perhaps non-native plantings, rhododendrons, et cetera, that we've all got on our property, synagogues and homes. What is the relationship between native plants and the deer population?
Well, there are plants that the deer prefer not to eat as much as others. We can help guide you in our pre-sale information and our sale information. We always indicate if a plant is deer resistant. Typically, deer don't like plants that have very strong flavors or very rough textures. Just as a kind of general guideline. So,
but if you're having a deer to dinner, you want to be sure to have mild food that goes down easy.
Yeah, so plants in the mint family, they don't like them. And holly trees with big thick thorny leaves, they tend not to like to eat those. So there are things that we can plant that they'll typically leave alone.
Great. Any other questions? Then one final one from me, and that is that if a synagogue or any of us individually wanted to engage somebody to consult with on their property to perhaps develop a planting plan for a garden, is that something that we can do through the Native Plant Center? Is there a list of resources? I know you mentioned, for example, the Healthy Yards folks, but how can we find somebody to hire to guide us?
Yeah, I believe that Healthy Yards does have that list as well. I could provide a couple of names if anybody wants to email me. I know Kim Ironman, who teaches for us. I believe she does garden design, and there's a few others that I could recommend.
All right. Any other questions or comments? So Patty, thank you so much on behalf of Westchester Jewish Council and everybody who participated in today's call for just an enormously helpful conversation about native plants, introducing to us to what they are and giving us good reason to employ them.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate everyone's interest and enthusiasm. It's really inspiring.
So for the rest of us, just a couple more things on our call today. I wanted to alert you to the topic of our next and final meeting for this season. Our fourth and final program will be on May. Oh, I think it's the 3rd is what we picked. Is that right? Pretty sure it's the 3rd. Somebody just check that. And Bonnie, go Pam.
Yeah, it's the 3rd, Evan.
Very good. Okay. So it's on the 3rd. We're going to hear from the Westchester Alliance for Sustainable Solutions, WASS. And there are 2 parts to that presentation. The first is to alert us to the impact of something called the Wheelabrator Westchester, which is an aging and heavily polluting incinerator in Peekskill that is fed by our trash. The program will explore the health and environmental impacts to this frontline environmental justice community. In other words, how that incinerator affects Peekskill, but also how it affects all communities across Westchester, as well as to highlight the importance of implementing a zero waste plan so that we can move away from trash incineration. We're fortunate enough for that program to have the founder of the organization, Dr. Courtney Williams, and a community organizer named Vanessa Agudelo, both Peekskill residents. Our goal is not only to inform this group about an environmental issue that all of us across Westchester should be aware of, but also to come away with concrete action steps regarding zero waste strategies for our respective communities as well as for achieving systemic change in Westchester. You may have had an April date for that meeting. We changed it to May 3rd because we needed to make sure that our guests for that day were available. Pam will send out a reminder so that everybody's got that on their calendar, and I think it should be as interesting as each of our other 3 presentations have been this past year. One more piece of business, and that is at our last call, we asked the Greening Roundtable for suggestions of the kinds of resources you'd like to see on our website so that you can easily click on things that we've talked about over time or referenced over time and get access to those resources, whether it's an organization that might be involved in environmental issues, or whether it is a resource, another kind of a resource. And so I'm really happy to share with you, I'll just click on that page, which is right here. I'll share my screen. It may not look terribly interesting because it's largely text, but you'll see at the top it says New Greening Roundtable Resources, January 2023. At the very top of the list is the Native Plant Center. Then comes Sustainable Westchester, Grid Rewards, which we've talked about, Composted, a Westchester facility on the Grasslands campus, the Yorktown Garden of Hope, Dayenu, a national Jewish organization, the Jewish Earth Alliance, and of course, Hazon's Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition, which we spoke about at a recent meeting. So all of these resources are now available. We will do our best to keep this updated for you. And welcome any suggestions you have for additions, or if you see something that's outdated or a link that doesn't work, just send an email to Pam or Pam and me and Bonnie, and we'll make sure that it gets taken care of. You guys know from your own websites at synagogues and so on, it's hard to keep this stuff up to date. We don't have an editor who's regularly checking the information, but if we all do our part as part of this community to kind of make sure that there's really valuable stuff on there, then more of us will turn to that page first when we need information or resources. Final note, there is Earth Day in April, and if your synagogue hasn't planned an Earth Day related Shabbat yet, you might think about that. I think actually Earth Day coincides with Shabbat this year, if I'm not mistaken. The 28th of
22nd.
22nd of April.
Mhm.
And so you may already be planning this, but it's a perfect opportunity to either do a program at your Shabbat service, or if you at your synagogue want to make a statement or direct congregants to something like, for example, the Native Plant Center. It's just a nice opportunity to raise awareness of the work that we're doing and so many organizations are doing.
I want to thank everybody for this wonderful program and for the May program and for telling us in advance. WAS is a phenomenal group, and it's dealing with a very important topic that most Westchesterians don't even know where our garbage goes and what happens to it. I don't know, they take it away, goes away. And it's really important. Earth Day happens to be on Tazria Mitzora, which seems appropriate. That, you know, all the yucky things that go on can be pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Then I'll conclude by inviting anybody who has program ideas for next year. We'll probably follow a similar format, just 4 really good programs over the course of the year that are all about information and action. And so we'll be looking for ideas to make sure that we build a really strong program series for 2023-24. I know it's early to start thinking about that, but before you know it, it's going to be May and we're together for our final meeting of the year, and we're beginning to plan for the next.
I just want to.
Please, Beverly. Yeah.
I just want to thank you very much. I think it was a great program for us personally and for our synagogues. And I was going to send Bonnie a little note, but instead it's easier for me to say thank you to the whole committee. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Bonnie, any final words?
I think Karen just wanted to announce some upcoming event. Karen,
Please.
did you want to?
Sure, thank you. I put in the chat a link to the Bedford 2030 Tree Forum that's scheduled for March 25th, and Kim Eierman is actually going to be one of our speakers, and there are going to be many different exhibitors in the expo that are designed to help people across a whole range of improving our landscapes at our home, being advocates for forests in our communities, and everything from native plants to trees, and how to preserve your own trees and what to do if something is sick, how to handle it. So it does take it from a carbon perspective, but it is obviously, incredibly important for all of us, and we're super excited. It's going to be at Fox Lane High School, and registration open today.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. And I want to just add one last thing. As we think about what kind of programming we want to see in the coming year, I want to remind you all that the ideas for this year's program came out of everybody filling out that rubric about projects they're doing in their synagogues or projects they're interested in learning more about. So for those of you who've sent it in to us in the past, please update them and let us know what your new interests are or your continued interests. And for those of you who haven't filled it out, I encourage you to please fill it out and send it in. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the winter, a good Pesach, and we will see you in early May.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.